Genau. Okay. Lass uns kurz 30 Sekunden nochmal grounden und let's kick it off. Muss meinem Team nur kurz Bescheid sagen. No recording. No. Hello and welcome to a next episode on catalyzing radical systemic change. Today we're going to bridge a critique on patriarchy, what that has to do with coaching, because my guest today is coaching since a quarter of a century. And finally, we're going to bridge indigenous wisdom from the Huni Kuin tribe with what that has to do for the necessary steps towards a planetary civilization. I'm very grateful to be in this electronic room together, sharing this precious time together today with Alexandra Schwarz-Schilling. My first question today, Alexandra, if you sketch your biography, where did your whole interest with the critique on patriarchy start, and how did that influence your life, your biography, and the business that you built in the last couple of decades?
Hi, Alistair. I'm happy to hear you and to answer your questions. Yes, okay, when did I start? Actually, when I was a teenager, I was already very interested in evolution, human evolution, and I always thought that humans have a lot of human behavior is, okay, I just felt it's old. It's like, it comes from a long process of becoming, and it's not all like created by our culture. And I was always on this edge between culture and nature, and I was always like, I felt I'm sitting on the fence, and I'm drawn to nature, and it's like culture is like holding you back. There, as if there was a fight between nature and culture. And I always felt that we have exaggerated the culture aspect, and we kind of do not honor enough the nature aspect. So this was already when I was very young. And then I started to study anthropology, ethnology, and prehistory. And that was very funny, because at that time in German university, you could only study this in two different departments. One was a natural science department, and the other was Geisteswissenschaften. And it did not work. You could not do this. In the early 80s, it was like everybody tries to convince you only this is correct science. And I was 20, and I wanted to understand. I was like, I wanted to know, and I got in the middle of these ideological fights, and then I decided, okay, and I'll do something more straight, and I studied business administration in a business school, which the only advantage was I didn't want to study this in the university, but in the business school, because I didn't like the subject so much. So I thought better like in a school. And the good part was that I was already in my generation, in that early age, I was all over the place in different continents, working stages, studying. So this was the good part. I had a very international education already, which usually has only the next generation. I already had it myself. And from there, I went to the United States, and I went back to my original interest, and I did a 2 years course of Shamanic Studies with Chippewa elders called Sun Bear, who is also famous. He wrote also several books about the medicine wheel. And so I was, from that business, I went to the Shamanic Studies of North America, and I was very much influenced by these teachings, especially understanding that in the spirit world, or in the spiritual worldview of the Native Americans, is very much more balanced between female and male aspects of creation. And it's all still alive, and it takes part in the ceremonies, and it's much more present than in Western or in our monotheistic religions, but also in contrast to Buddhism or Hinduism, which I studied already when I was a teenager. I studied different religions because I was also interested in religions. And this North American indigenous worldview touched my heart the most. I felt so at home. I never felt at home like this. So then I came back to Europe, and I did. I already knew I will not go into the big companies. I don't like that surrounding. So I do cultural management. I did theater work with Russians, because the wall had just fallen. That was in the beginning of the 90s, and I came to Berlin. I already had 2 children at the time, and I did all this theater work. And with this theater work, I saw I want to work not only on the organizational level. I want to do inner work also, because if you watch the actors, how they have to go beyond their borders to become the person they are supposed to be, I found that process of development so interesting. So then I decided, okay, I'll study one more time. I studied psychology. So then I studied psychology, and then I was so lucky, because in the beginning of this studies, I already came to know coaching. And from that moment, that was 1996, I knew, okay, now all this crazy stuff I've been doing so far, now it starts to make sense. And it, when you look backwards, you start to understand. When you live forward, you do the things and you don't know yet why they are fitting in some way. Because a lot of people were like, what are you doing? This is not connected. And at that time, business and psychology were 2 different things. And so then I continued my studies in university, and I also trained myself in coaching already. And then when I finished my studies in university, I started Coaching Spirale 20 years ago, my company. And then I started to build this company up, and we started to do training for coaches and so forth. And then still something, just to make something inside. Then I had also contact with ayahuasca, which I had always said, because I never took any chemical drugs in my life, and I always said, okay, when ayahuasca crosses my way, I will try. And I tried it, and it was 4 times, and the 4th time I had taken, there was a big vision I had, which kind of led me to this new project, which I started 10 years ago together with my husband, this healing biotope in Brazil. It was very clear for me, and it's called Living Gaia. And it's, for me, it's coming all together, the different aspects of the female spirit that has to, spread his wings again, so to speak. Because in this 20 years when I built up Coaching Spirale, I did a lot of work also concerning this, what I had learned from the North American indigenous people, like why is it a little bit more balanced than our culture? And when I had come back from the United States, I also started to go deeply into this context. I studied a lot about the European history and about the European indigenous people and what happened so that we became this patriarchal culture that we are today. So I started to really dig into this subject. I wrote a book about it. I have a lot of lectures and seminars, and so I can say that this knowledge which I hold inside and which I love to share also with other people, I wanted to have a place really in nature to be able to work with people really in nature, because I'm settled in Berlin. It's an urban setting. Everything is fine, but certain things are not possible if you're not in nature. So that's why we founded this place, Living Gaia, in the middle of Brazil, not too far from the capital, Brasilia, in the Chapada dos Veadeiros. And this was really a big adventure for me. It was a vision that I implemented, and I really did it like this. I didn't speak Portuguese at the time, although my husband is Brazilian, and it was a little bit a crazy thing to do, to go and buy land in a place you don't know. You're in the middle of nowhere, really far off everything. But it was like I had to do it. It was like I couldn't not do it. It was really, and it was not easy, because a lot of people were angry. What are you doing? And they thought I would leave forever. And I said, no, I'm not leaving. I didn't leave my family. I didn't leave my team, but I had to do this. So I built this place together with my husband, whom I also needed some years to convince to really go into this project. And from there, of course, when I had this place in Brazil, I immediately felt the urge to connect with the indigenous people of Brazil. I had learned so much from the North American indigenous people that for me it was only natural, to make this thing round again. Now I'm in Brazil, I will connect with the indigenous cultures in Brazil, and then, as life is, it takes you somewhere. And it took me the first thing, it took me to the Huni Kuin, which is far away from Living Gaia, but there it took me to the Huni Kuin at the border to Peru, and it was like this immediately. So since 2013, I have a strong connection to the Huni Kuin in Jordan. We have a lot of exchange between Living Gaia and Jordan. They come to Living Gaia, we go there, and now we have this land purchase project. So it's like, for me, it's coming together in that Living Gaia, with the Living Gaia project and Coaching Spirale, things that have always been inside me kind of come together now.
So thanks for this beautiful, feels like almost like a life's poem. Feels like you have always been guided and trusting your deeper intuition. Let's look just in these like different headlines. When you started your coaching business, you already had a broad array of different wisdom traditions, perspectives, a very international life. So I'm really curious, since there are so many ways to become a coach and so many different ways to show up as a coach, as I'm also doing myself, what are distinct features? What makes what you're teaching and the people that you're training to become a coach so unique?
Yeah, I think it's two things. It's a very deep work we do. It's not at all superficial. It's the work we do comes all from the basis of all that work is therapy, and the tools and the interventions are redesigned and straightened out, and to a different, to be able to use them in coaching. And then your Haltung, was is Haltung? The most important is how you do this work. So these two things, what we do is we always have done it holistically. Even 20 years ago, we have always said there is no such thing as business coaching or life coaching. We work with people, with the person, and we really help the person to understand their deepest, how can I say, opinions they are holding about themselves and about the world. And we help them to really understand their patterns of thinking, feeling, and acting. And we help them to see what resources and benefits they have from this, and what price they also pay. And then from there, we support them to connect with their deepest longing, to make the frame they put themselves in, make it bigger. So it's a very deep personal work we are doing. So you kind of get the chance of having a new experience of yourself, and to fill your life with new experiences of yourself, because you have the courage to step out of these patterns you have always been living in, with benefits and prices, both sides, but it's like limiting you. So to get out of this box, to make it bigger, we call it umtopfen. We call it you put yourself in a new pot, because in that old pot the plant cannot grow further, so you need a new pot. And you take everything with you, the roots and everything, but you have to create this bigger pot so you can grow further. And this work is very personal. And what is unique in our work is that we especially in our trainings to become a coach, we do this on a very personal level, and the groups are so close together because we do the coaching in front of the group. So the people really learn how we do it. And I think this is maybe what makes us special. So it's not about tools and these kind of things, but it's about really supporting your client to become, to support him to become the person he's longing for. This is, I could say a lot of things in addition, but this is, so it's very, it's very deep, it's very personal, and it's a lot of fun also.
Let's connect this thread, because preparing for the podcast, when you Google Alexandra Schwarz-Schilling, there's certain typologies of articles. So when we talk about your critique on patriarchy and the need for women to show up, seize power, take responsibility, how do you link that to, let's say, the core of more than 20 years of your contribution building the business?
Yeah, this is like a second big branch of that tree, because this subject also I dig deep into man-woman relationship, and it's in that context that I was how can I say, that I put a lot of all what we are saying in the coaching. If you don't understand the history that men and women, the collective part of our being as a man or as a woman. Usually we know we are a man or a woman. There's also other possibilities, of course, but usually we identify being a man or a woman. So this work already connects in this bigger pot. What kind of man or woman do you want to be? So in that man-woman relationship, there is so much crap in our relationships, and it's very important to understand where this crap comes from, because a lot of times people feel that they kind of did not succeed because they don't have a happy partnership. So a lot of people perceive this as personal failure because they are not aware of the collective load that we are carrying. So everybody feels alone, and I saw so many people falling into the same traps. So I was very much studying this man-woman relationship. Also, I studied a lot about sexuality, and I combined this knowledge with the knowledge of the history of the sexes, and it starts in really old Stone Age. So I really studied all this history to understand how our culture really turned the things and put them upside down. So, and from there we have not recovered yet. We are not even aware of this. So I think it's very important to get this knowledge out in the world. I'm doing now, in fact, I'm not doing seminars anymore. Now I'm doing an online education about this topic, because I think it's a very important topic, and people have to it's confrontational, of course, it confronts us, but it's about it's always important. Why are we doing this? We are doing this to heal the relationship of the sexes, to heal them, to make them beautiful again, you know, to understand where the I don't know, the shields that we have come from, and especially to understand where men and women, the polarity of the sexes, which is very important to understand, to connect this with the bodies and the shields on different parts, and then why we have so much misunderstanding. So if you help people to free themselves from all this by understanding better and being able to become more aware of what they do also in their relationships with each other, I think it helps. So I think it's very important, this knowledge about patriarchy, to understand this, then to reintegrate indigenous knowledge, which we have to today reintegrate, because there is a lot of things still there that we got lost in patriarchy, and to really connect back to nature. I think that's a very important part of our that's a very important part lately to become to a different worldview, which is all said already in this word living Gaia, which means this earth is a living organism. We are part of this living organism, and so I think it makes sense to visualize ourselves like nervous cells of this living organism. So we get new options, we have new possibilities, we can understand how this organism works, and we can use also the way that how we transmit information.
Since we're now, already in this like very deep dive, I think I want to touch upon your critique on patriarchy a couple of times still within our encounter today. But I have the feeling almost like I would invite this master teacher plant called ayahuasca into the conversation. And before asking you about the ripple effects it had onto your life, onto your projects, what did the encounter do with yourself? So what happened to the individual? Because as you said before that, you have not been experimenting with substances. So I imagine now Alexandra Schwarz-Schilling, I don't know, how many years back was your first ayahuasca experience?
I think 13 years back.
Yeah.
Or yeah, 13 years, I think 2000
What,
or 2009.
and you said it was 4 times.
Yeah.
What did happen to yourself? I'm super curious.
Yeah, in the fourth ceremony, it was in Europe, even it was not in Brazil. I decided, I had a very clear voice in my head telling me to leave the group. It was daytime and we were outside in nature, and I left the group and I spent 4 hours alone in nature, and I had the most intense trip that I ever had. And it was like, maybe was it like an initiation or another initiation? Of course, in fact, it was like, I had to decide, do I want to really go this way? And I always said, yes, I want. I'm going, not the medicine way, that was not the question, but the way which would lead me also into the unknown. I had to say, yes, I go into the unknown. I'm ready. I'm willing. And maybe it's like Hingabe. What is Hingabe in English? It's the devotion. So I was, if I was willing to surrender to the I don't know, to the oneness or to the power, and but it was all, that was the interesting part. It was always open eyes and in interaction with nature the whole time, with the clouds, the sun, the leaves, the animals. It was a very I've never experienced anything like this before, not after, and I've done a lot of ceremonies, but this was a special gift. It was like a gift, and it kind of tuned me in, and I felt like something is getting alive within me. I felt like the snake is waking up and dancing inside, and I felt very empowered by this ceremony. So this was it helped me to go through all these, how can I say, difficult decisions I had to take. I had to take a lot of difficult decisions, buying this land, and it's not like it was a big thing, to make this bridge to Brazil, and that it's in Brazil also was part of the process. That it's going to be Brazil was not clear yet in that ceremony. It was later that it suddenly my mind opened that it's going to be here, and then things were very fast. So I always felt, indeed, I felt guided. I felt like and this all started with this ceremony. So it was a very, very profound, that changed my life, you can say, because it took all of what was already there and made something connected. It connected the things together. That was for me the most important part, and I felt very happy.
Let's stay with the ceremonial part and plant medicine, because I reckon we're both at the same time deeply grateful for being touched and being guided by the work with sacred master teacher plants, but also we we're both pretty critical when it comes to how we both perceive like what happens in the whole spiritual circles of people like hopping from one ceremony to another and not taking the proper time to integrate, or maybe needing other tools to really integrate this very profound, very intense, heart opening, sometimes also like life shattering experiences. So I can't really put this into one question, but when you look at your own path and all the people that you see and what's happening in the spiritual or psychedelic circles, what is your criticism and what is a recommendation when people start this path?
Yes, that's a very important point. I think it has, I was lucky in a way because I came to know plant medicine. I was already, how can I say, I was already on my path. I was not lost or searching so much, because I sometimes see people that are very much into searching and then they get a little bit lost. They get lost in this plant medicine consumption, and it doesn't really support their development completely. I can see that in a lot of people. And for example, after that ceremony I have been telling you about, I decided to stop drinking that medicine and to wait and to go and see where it comes from. So for 3 years, I did not touch this medicine again. And so I had a lot of respect, but also not, how can I say, but not exaggerated. But I think the medicine is useful in moments where you have to take important decisions in your life, because I think it also helps you really connect with your unconscious. But I think it needs it needs also more than just the ceremony, depending, of course, on the person. Every person needs, depending on where they are on their way. That's why it's so difficult to say something general in that, how I feel, because we also work with people very individually. So you have to work with the person individually, and ayahuasca can be a part of it, but it should not be, because I see a lot of people totally overwhelmed and like, ayahuasca, the shamans, and they give the responsibility away in a way, and it's not, this doesn't really, I mean, maybe it's part of the path of the people. Even this is not something to be judged, but I think it's important to see always individually, okay, where are you now, and what do you need now? And if you want to include a ceremony, have an intention. What for? What is your question? Have a question at least, because it will help you. It will guide you through the process. And then after that, let's see, what was the answer and what can you make from that? What is the gift? And generally in all, and I think from that, plant medicine is not different from anything else. There's always a danger of consumption. You can consume anything. If you are in a consuming mode, it will not give you the gifts that are there. So if you are in a mood to take gifts, to transform yourself, then you really take the responsibility for the process. And I think this always works best. So it's about supporting people to take responsibility for their process. And the plant medicine is a part of that. it's one of the things you can do, but it's not, I wouldn't make a cult around it. For example, I'm so also, I love the indigenous cultures, not only for the ceremonies. This is for me a very important part, because a lot of people, when they hear Huni Kuin, it's only about ayahuasca. I don't think so. I don't think it's only about ayahuasca. Ayahuasca is a part of their culture, and I'm very grateful that I had the opportunity to learn with this medicine, and I think it's a very powerful medicine. But for example, for years to come, and I had a lot of ceremonies with the Huni Kuin, the medicine just, there was no big news. There was only, go on, continue, everything is fine. There was not a big, nothing much happened. So it's so interesting for me also that the medicine, it's not like you can go for the next exciting thing. It's not meant that way.
Well, since I'm deep in the medicine work myself, I would say when you drink ayahuasca and it doesn't show you anything new, you're pretty much aligned and already a conduit of life force running through you, right? And expressing life itself through you, again, like as a conduit. This is where I love this like quote from Albert Schweitzer: I'm life in the middle of life, wanting to live. Ich bin Leben, das Leben ist inmitten von Leben, das Leben ist. And for me, the translation of the deep inner work, and I would say also the greatest gift, and also the challenge sometimes of working with sacred plants, is that especially Mother Ayahuasca is very uncompromising to show you as that individual human being making the human experience, if you are aligned. And if you are aligned, I would agree that there really is not so that much more, there's not even a peak experience left, right? It's more you're witnessing life happening through you. I have the feeling that's a perfect bridge to the Huni Kuin, and I don't want to make it exotic, but I want to evoke a certain sense of curiosity and fascination, but also vulnerability within the listeners. I've never been to the Amazon rainforest. Through you and us working together, I will visit the Huni Kuin, and it's actually the first dream of my childhood to visit indigenous people in the Amazon rainforest. And I think a lot of people carry this dream. So I'm curious how your encounter happened, and why are you deepening the bonds? And then also just explaining where are we standing with the project of the land purchase, and why is that of utter importance in this moment and space?
Yeah, as I said, first, it's 9 years ago that I went for the first time together with my pregnant daughter. She was pregnant at the time, and we came there and to a festival that was a festival for the Huni Kuin themselves, and there were not very many foreigners. And it is, how can I say? But I think it's a fountain or a spring, Nascente, eine Quelle. It's of inspiration and colors and music, and also what it means to live life close to nature. For me, this is very important. For example, I'm so inspired about just to watch the Huni Kuin women, how they are with their children. It's for me, it's like, yes, yes, yes. That's, it feels, it's a, for me, it's a pleasure just to watch it. I feel so happy to see this, because it's like a memory. I feel like it helps us to connect with our own collective memory of how it can be between adults and children, for example, because children are never, this is something that really touches my heart deeply. If you have a political reunion, for example, in one of the villages, there will always be children running around. The children will not be, no, this is important stuff here. No children allowed. You know, I mean, all this separation we have in our society, in a village, you see, it's not there, this separation, and it feels healing. It feels healing to see that children don't need toys. Children just do what the adults do. That's anyway what they want to do, and the adults make it possible. And it's like it's a much more. A lot of things are more artgerecht, I would say. And I'm not a person who is too romantic about the indigenous hero. No. I see also a lot of problems, and I see a lot of bad things. But if you ask me why am I inspired by the Huni Kuin, these are the points. So it's the physical bodies they have, because they are moving their bodies, they are using their bodies for their daily life. Nobody needs to do sport. It's a totally different kind of life, and it's so connected with nature. And this alone for me is really such a gift of inspiration, that it is possible as humans to live like this, and not that like far away from nature and doing everything to get it out of our world and to be surrounded by technical stuff. This is so for me, it's like it nourishes my soul, it nourishes my body, it gives me a lot of yeah, it reconnects me with what is really important, and you understand you are a part of this nature, really. So this is my personal love affair, so to speak, with the Huni Kuin. And I love the paintings, I love the music, I love the songs. I got so used to it. For me, it's like, it feels already like, even though when you hear it for the first time, it's quite strange. I mean, it's not the sounds that we usually hear. So for me now, it's became so familiar that I feel, when I hear something like this, I feel already at home. I feel very happy. And yeah, that's so the.
I know this feeling. I know this feeling very much, right? Because when we're sitting in ceremony and we listen to the Ikaros, or even just something from these cultures, obviously this like resonates always and gives us this like deep feeling of being home. With I really just want to stretch this. Let's please, Alexandra, let's please not be overly romantic. So I'm very curious on the critical parts, because I know you're especially working with the women and the female elders. Let's sketch a bit of the, like, I would not say bad, but maybe the critical part,
Yeah,
because
problem.
I think we don't help the indigenous if we romanticize.
No, definitely not. I mean, absolutely. I'm a very clear in that. So the problem is the Huni Kuin have been decimated in the times of when they have been conquered. You know, they have been decimated until, let's say, 1980s, and they are only contacted for about 80 to 100 years. That's also important to know. So then they have had a very hard time, and in the 90s, with Lula also things got a lot better in the 2000s. So from then on, they now try to really because it was like a genocide. We must be aware. There were so many indigenous people who have been killed in Brazil that for them it's important for their population to become a little bit more people again, and they are one of the biggest ethnic group in the Amazon, and they are about 20,000 people. So it's not really a lot, but it's a huge group for the indigenous people of Brazil. So they try to be here. We are here. So that is one thing. So they have a lot of children, and there are a lot of people, young people. So, but they are not able to live their traditional lives anymore because they are no longer nomads. So they have to settle. So when they have to settle, they cannot only live from hunting. How? Because if they lived from hunting, they would be moving in the forest. And so we have all these, just for the problems I will now name, we have to have these circumstances in mind. So they have relatively small territories, exploding villages, and what are all these young people going to do? So what they do now, as the foreigners come and are fascinated by their traditions and by ceremonies, they all start singing, guitar playing, and they want to become page, because page means I can go, I can travel, I earn a lot of money. So this is what happened the last decade, let's say, that a lot of them traveled Brazil or started traveling also other continents, and became very how can I say, they became pages without being a page. They did not study for years together with an elder. No, it's not true. They see how I have to do it, and they go and they say I'm a page, and then the Brazilian or the Europeans or the Americans people, they are like, oh, page, with their spiritual, and they put too much. They put them on a high tableau, which kind of is not good for them at all. And for me, it's a little bit this, how can I say, it's like what you keep is the distance. When you suppress the people, or as they did in the beginning, they slaved them or they killed them, you keep the distance to them by putting them down. Now by putting them up, it's again, you keep the distance. That's not what they need. It's not what they want. It's for them, it's very strange. In Jordan, the Brazilians will still look down on them, and then the Europeans come or the Americans, and put them on a throne. And all that is crazy. But it happens a lot. It happens a lot. All these spiritual seekers in North America and Europe, they say, just see an indigenous person, oh, it's a shaman, he has all the knowledge. No, he has not all the knowledge. It's not true. I mean, you have to be a little bit, I don't know, to feel who is really a spiritual shaman, and most of them are not. So, so they go out, they travel, they earn a lot of money, and they come back and they spend it, and it doesn't necessarily go to the tribe. So that's why we are, because this is getting more and more, and only the men are called, and also the spiritual seekers don't even notice what's happening with the women there. They are so spiritual knowledge, want to, then themselves are treated like men, even also when it's people from outside women, and they don't even notice that we have to support the women if we want the Huni Queen to survive, because it's the Huni Queen women, they care for the community, they keep the life going, and they are much more, it's much easier to work with them. They will do what they say. They are much more, they are not, how can I say, also so influenced maybe by the Brazilian way of being a macho. So there is a serious problem. We can see that the Brazilian culture has turned the Huni Queen into a very patriarchal tribe. And you can see that there is old habits that show that there was something else below. But in a culture that has no written words, you can cut the lines very easily, and within 2 generations, things get really lost. This is something, yeah, that we maybe underestimate. For example, it's still like that if a Huni Queen marries a Huni Queen woman, he will move into the woman's family. This is a typical, not patriarchal system. So you see below there is much more balanced life, but the people who came there in the Amazon, you can imagine that these rubber takers, they were only guys, they were not the nicest guys, and we can imagine what they did to the women. So all the Huni Queen learned from them to suppress the women. If you want to survive in our society, you have to, and that's what they do. So that's why I say the women they are very strong. You can feel the strength of the women, and also, of course, there are some of the elders who are very empowered. I'm if I want to support, of course, the future for the Huni Queen, I can really see that we have to invest in the women in order to not this society drifts apart, because the men, when they travel, they learn better to speak better Portuguese. The women speak less Portuguese. And so what we do in Living Gaia is that we work with the women. We even make the ceremonies with women leadership. And I can also really say that it's much more soft ceremonies, and it's not such a, it's extremely important also for the spiritual balance which we need in the world. We need more female teachers, we need more female energy in the ceremonies, and some of the pages, they are very male. It's a very male way of leading ceremonies, and we are, as I said, we are trying to support the women also as shamans, and it's also happening already. They are traveling also. We also call them for traveling, and because also more and more people ask for the female spiritual energy, because the world really needs it. But if you have both, if you have the women and the men will always dominate, and the women will still, they will still be submissive.
How interesting that you're sitting in an electronic room with a guy, but I have not changed my shaman working with ayahuasca, and it's a woman since 10 years. So since we're coming towards the end of the podcast, let's dedicate a chapter explicitly to the land purchase project. Why is this so important? How much money is needed? What do we want to do with the money? Where are we standing with that?
Yeah, the land purchase project is extremely important because, as I said, they are a growing population and they need space to live. This is for the Huni Kuin. Then where they live in Jordan, they have their territories, but there are also, of course, a lot of Brazilians and a lot of Brazilian farmers. And the Brazilian farms are next to the indigenous territories. And some of this territory is the forest has been cut off and they have put cattle. And of course, we all know that in the indigenous territories, the forest is happy and nothing happens to the forest. So the indigenous people live in a way that the forest is, because for them it's a source of life. They would never have the idea of cutting down the forest. So with this land purchase project, we want to do two things. We want to protect the forest of deforestation, and we want to empower the Huni Kuin and we want to have them also in their role of protectors of the forest. So protecting the indigenous or supporting the indigenous people is, and supporting and protecting the rainforest is the same thing. That's why we want to buy this land, which is close to their territories and reaches unto the next river, where it's also villages of the Huni Kuin, and where also the chief of the Huni Kuin also 20 years ago already bought land. So private land purchase seems at the moment to be the most reasonable thing you can do, because it's the most, because private property is protected by the Brazilian constitution. And we we will buy private land, which is now in the possession of farmer, and buy it as a NGO for the Huni Kuin, where the Huni Kuin are part of this foundation, in fact. And so this is why it's so important, because I mean, I don't know, I have to explain you, original forest is the best thing you can do. The land to protect original forest, which is already there. Reforestation is also nice, but original forest is better. And the parts of the land that have been deforested or cut off, which are about 800 hectares from a whole of 17,000 hectares, which we will also, of course, put forest again. But it's surrounded by intact forest, so the small parts that have been small, just in comparison to the whole of the land, we will, of course, reforest again. And we need $1.5 million euros for the project, and it's buying the project in 2 steps. Then it's reforestating the areas that have been cut down, and to build a cultural visiting center for visitors to have a, how can I say, to have a visitor center for people from outside to come to know the Huni Kuin culture. And we are in the last steps of the negotiation process, and it will be the first part of this land we will buy, I hope, in 1 or 2 months.
Beautiful, thanks. Alexandra, we're approaching the last two questions from my side. When you look at your own biography and you take a legacy perspective, so what is it that you want to leave behind for the generations to come? And I would like to connect this with the overarching topic of the podcasts. What are the necessary steps towards a planetary civilization, and what do they have to do with the legacy you want to leave behind?
So the legacy really concerns the places that I am creating and modeling. So one is Coaching Spirale. I want to give Coaching Spirale into I don't know, self-ownership, so that it's a vessel for people to help other people to develop themselves. So I feel like creating vessels. This is my legacy, in vessels in which something nice can happen, transformation can happen in these vessels. So Coaching Spirale is one of these vessels, and I would like to leave it like a healthy, beautiful plant. I was always thinking I want to grow organically. I don't want exorbitant growth. I think it's crazy. I want an organically growth, which we have in Coaching Spirale, and I would like it to grow a little bit further, and then it's there and other people use it, make it alive. And also the same with Living Gaia. I wish Living Gaia also is such a vessel, Living Gaia in Alto Paraiso. And also the projects I do, I wish them to prosper. I see a very strong connection to the natural processes, and they grow, and I don't need to be how can I say, I don't need a big grave and all that kind of stuff. I'm just part of this plant that kind of, when the time is there, it goes down. I don't think I need, I just leave behind what I created. I'm there in that anyway. I hope that it is prospering. It will prosper, everything that I created when I'm gone.
Well, hopefully we still have a couple of years of fun, making the land purchase a success.
Yeah, because I really think, Alistair, I really think the consciousness, it's about, I'm a part of this organism, dead or alive, it doesn't matter. I'm a part of this organism, and it's very physical for me. This is a very physical thing. So when I'm a dead body, I will be transformed, into other things of this same planet. So I'm never going somewhere. I will always be part of this planet, and that's how I see it. So I'm happy, no matter I'm dead or alive. I'm part of this planet.
Alexandra, I think the last 3 sentences were so beautiful. And for anybody listening, if you ever were called to do a ceremony with sacred plant medicine, especially ayahuasca, and you truly want to have the feeling of being part of that mother organism, what more beautiful portal you can go through than an encounter with ayahuasca. This whole podcast was not about ayahuasca, but I think it's very truthful to kind of end it like that, because dead or alive, we're part of the mother organism called Gaia. Thanks, Alexandra. And yeah, happy to contribute to everything that wants to unfold through the two of us and the many others, that are within that beautiful game to create, a prospering future for the many generations to come. Thank you, Alexandra.
Thank you.